I've run businesses while in school for 8 years. 3 of those 8 were spent right here at McGill University, where I graduated as valedictorian. Now, that was definitely a high of my experience. I had succeeded at university and built a robust business, which I actually still run to this day. However, there most definitely were lows, from an online store being banned by an e-commerce platform in middle school to losing clients during busy exam periods, as you might expect. Those stories are for another time though. What I want to do in this video is share with you the 3 things I've learned from balancing school and business. Now, these aren't one-size-fits-all kind of truths, but they are pretty agnostic. So regardless of what business or industry you're in or what level of schooling you're in, you will find them helpful, and I hope that you can use them to figure out what's best for your situation. All right, let's take a walk. All right, so I'm in a tree, but let me tell you about the first thing I've learned. So the first thing I've learned is that there's no such thing as balancing school and business, or frankly, any other area of life. What it really is all about is compromise. And you want to evaluate and prioritize what matters to you so that then you can be smart about what you value, what you prioritize, and then what you compromise. So for example, for me, for my first year, it was really important for me in university at least, to really get involved because I couldn't evaluate everything and decide what was important to me if I hadn't tried out anything. So what I did in my first year is I pushed my business a bit more to the side than I would have in my second or third year, which is actually what happened. And I focused on extracurriculars a lot more than I did on academics and my business. What that yielded is a great social life, a great knowledge of what university offered, and a great knowledge of myself and what I found important and what brought me the most value and what made me most happy. And so what I recommend for you is really to evaluate and prioritize at different stages, but especially when you're starting out a new chapter like entering college, you want to know what you want and what's important to you before you take any of these steps that are really all around compromise. So look at yourself, look at your business. Is this something you want to do long term? Is this something that's going to bring you skills that will get you further to where you want to go? Maybe it's not even a long-term thing, but you want to get a job in a field that's similar. So maybe you're running an agency and you're doing a lot of accounting for it and you want to go into accounting. It can be as simple as that. So what you want to do is sit down with yourself. Write down, I did this on paper, like really every area of life. There's social, there's academic, there's professional, and there's business. And you might have others like fitness or things like that, family, friends. And then you got to look at what makes you most happy right now and what brings you the most value. And the last thing I'll say on this section is that you want to think about the long term too. For me, it was really important to evaluate and see if any of my business projects had any potential long-term, because I would be open to pursuing them long-term after graduation, for example, for college. And that's exactly what I did. There was one business project that I really focused on because I had evaluated it and prioritized it as something that I could do after graduation. All right, let's move on. All right, so this next part is all about how to compromise intelligently. So now you know what matters to you. And the next step for me in my second year or whatever chapter you're in would probably be to apply that prioritization to what you're spending your time on. And the first thing I want you to know before we get into the details of this is that in my experience, what has yielded the most results is really thinking about how I can work smart rather than hard about what I do. And I'll give you a concrete example of this because I know a lot of people just say work smart and not hard without actually saying how to do it. An example is when I wanted to hack something or go faster and do something more effectively so I could have more time for other things. What I did is I asked for help. A lot of people, and this is great advice for college in general, high school as well, is a lot of people don't know where to go for help, and even if they do, they just don't do it. And so a big thing for me was when there was something complicated that I could spend many hours to try and figure out myself. Instead of doing that, what I did is maybe I went to office hours and spoke to a professor. Maybe I spoke to some friends in the class. So there really are a lot of shortcuts that you can take, but these will really depend on what program you're in, what situation you're in. So I really will leave it up to you to figure it out, but do think out of the box. Don't just do what everyone else is doing in your program or in your class. If everyone's doing 8 hours a week, that does not mean you need to study for 8 hours a week. It really isn't as simple as that. And there often are ways that you might not think about automatically that are there for you to work smart versus hard. Now, this second part, what it really is about is how to compromise. And the best way I've found to do that is to adapt and focus. So what you'll realize very quickly in general in academics and in school is that distractions are costly. When your phone rings once, or when you get one notification and you're on it for 10 minutes, it ends up being half an hour very easily. So what you want to do is really eliminate distractions as much as possible, but also focus on the task at hand. And so the way I do that, and this will kind of bridge us to our third lesson, is that I separate really well the areas that I'm focusing on at a time. I really learned this in my last year of college, and in my first 2 years it was tough. But the best way to actually compromise and focus on one thing, whether it's business or academics, is to do it for an extended period of time and not break it up. So what I did is, for example, I had finals on a Wednesday. The Tuesday would be dedicated just to the exam. Same for the Monday, nothing business related. And setting those separators, those mental blocks on what you're going to be doing for certain days or certain hours, whatever works for you, is super important. The reason behind this, and you'll learn this pretty quickly, is that the fact that you have 10 hours a week free doesn't mean that you have 10 hours a week to work on your business. Because mentally, there's a lot of headspace that goes to the fact that you're in school. And I realized this once I graduated, is even if I spent the same amount of hours or pure time on my business, the productivity and the results were much higher just because my headspace was fully into the business. Again, you might not realize this now because you're in it, but once you leave, you really will realize that there is a part of your head that, or mental thinking, that will always be dedicated to something that you're doing at the same time as something else. You can't fully erase it. So the best way to minimize that effect of, okay, my mind is also thinking about school, is to dedicate long periods of time where you can focus on your business and sort of really eliminate distractions and have that be your primary goal, and you can enter a state of flow and you can do what you do best. Alright, so the last thing you want to do is to check in and adapt. Adapt both your actions and your expectations. So what I did every year or every 6 months of balancing these two, or any areas of life, honestly, is I checked in with myself. This can be a calendar reminder you put on your Google Calendar. It could be just something you do mentally every once in a while when you think about it. But it's really important to reevaluate every once in a while how things are going, because this is important in general in business, but it's also even more important when you have other areas of your life that are a priority, like school, and you want to make sure that it's worth the compromise that you're doing. So what I did in my second year, for example, is, hey Nabil, look, I tried all these extracurriculars. What are the ones that you really like that are worth compromising for, that are worth balancing your business for? And so this is something that you can do for different areas, not just for business, but I highly recommend it if you're balancing school and business. And once you have done this, and once you've seen, okay, this is worth prioritizing, this is less worth prioritizing, the next thing you want to do is to adapt your expectations. You might be disappointed in yourself because you might not be getting the grades you want to get. You might be disappointed because, some of your extracurriculars are lacking results. And that's fine, it happens. It is very hard. I'm telling you, there were a lot of lows, and again, I'm sure I'll have a chance to speak to those in other videos, but it is hard. It's not easy to balance any area of life, let alone two areas that some people dedicate years of full-time work to, like business and school. And you have to realize that to some extent you're in the top whatever percent of students that are pursuing something other than school while they're in school. And so be aware of that, be kind to yourself, realize it, and really check in to see how it's going every once in a while. And that way you can really adapt what you expect of yourself, you can celebrate what went well, and you can learn from what didn't go well. I hope this will help you. You will go through and learn many lessons that will apply to your situation better than what I told you, but really what I tried to do with these 3 lessons is make them as general as possible. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like the video, share it with any friends that you know that are going through similar thought processes. And if you'd like to follow the journey along with someone who did do the school route and the business route at the same time, please give this channel a look. I'll be uploading more videos on how to do that, perhaps more concretely in different spaces. So that's it for me. I hope you found this helpful, and I wish you guys a great day, And I wish you all the best for your businesses, for your school, and any other project that you pursue. Cheers.